If you are looking to run large squads of Terminators in your Horus Heresy army, like, I don't know, the 10 you get in the Age of Darkness box set, I'd highly recommend looking at taking a Primus Medicae character to go along with them, because not only is he a decent combat character, he also brings along a pretty hard to get 5+ feel no pain for your Terminator unit. The only issue though, is the one official Primus Medicae model that Games Workshop produced was an event-only model that came out a couple of years back and is rather hard to get a hold of these days. So in this video, I'm going to show you how you can easily create your own using readily available plastic parts. This conversion is a little more involved than a straight up kit bash, as there is some cutting and minimal sculpting involved, but nothing too crazy that you can't handle. For this conversion, you're going to need one plastic Cataphractii Terminator and the Apothicary bits from the Dark Angel Terminator squad. I happen to have these Dark Angel bits laying around, but they are pretty easy to find for cheap on eBay and other bits site, as every single Dark Angel Terminator kit comes with a set, but most players only need one. To start with, I clip out and assemble the legs and torsos as normal for a Cataphractii Terminator, with no modifications here. I'm just careful to take my time to remove all the mold lines and assemblies as I normally would. I do want to mount this sensor array on the hood of the Medicae's Terminator plate though. While it kind of fits out of the box, it was intended for the slightly larger Indominus pattern Terminator armor, so a couple of modifications are going to be needed. The first is that the raised area on the back of the Cataphractii armor is in the way of the sensor array sitting flush, so I carefully trimmed it away with a sharp X-Acto knife. I'm not too concerned here though about getting this piece to be too smooth, as it will be covered by the sensor, and I just want it to be flat so the piece will sit flush. After the raised area is cut away, I glue the sensors down with some plastic glue and let it cure. There is still a bit of a gap here, and some overhang where this piece falls off the edge of the top of the plate, but I'll fix both of these later on once the plastic glue is dried. In the meantime though, I get to work on converting the Narthicarium arm, which is by far the most involved part of this entire conversion. In short, I'm going to cut away the entire power fist from a Cataphractii Terminator arm, and the shoulder pad away from the Dark Angel's Terminator arm, and join the two together. When making large cuts like this, I generally prefer to start by hacking away large chunks of plastic with my clippers. This is a pretty destructive process, and any parts removed in this way will pretty much be scrapped after this is over. But I find it much more convenient than busting out my jeweler's saw, and I like convenience when it comes to these kind of conversions. When cutting away plastic here, I decided to leave the elbow parts from both the arms intact for the time being, as I was not sure which one I was going to use. Obviously, my finished Marine can only have one elbow, and my preference was to leave the original Cataphractii one on for the sake of authenticity. After dry fitting the pieces together though, I saw it'd be much easier to leave the elbow from the Narthicarium arm on, and cut away the Cataphractii one. So even though it's not exactly quote-unquote period accurate, and someone might get mad at me for using the wrong mark of Terminator armor in a Horus Heresy game, this conversion is far easier doing it this way, I found. The other thing too is the tassels of the shoulder pad can kind of cover any mistakes. So after cutting away the elbow, I used a very sharp X-Acto knife to carefully scrape away all excess plastic and get a flush fit. I waited to glue together the two arm pieces until after I'd glued the shoulder onto the body assembly I'd built before. This way, I was able to take some plastic glue and ensure that the angle of the Narthicarium was how I wanted it to be, to get a dynamic looking pose on my model. I also took this opportunity to glue on the two, I guess they're Gene Seed Collection vials, onto the thighs of the Terminator's legs. The rest of the model is pretty straightforward, with the tassels on the front of the model and the shoulders going on quite normally. And the only real consideration you have remaining is how you want to arm your Cataphractii Primus Medicae's other arm. In this case, I decided to just go with a lightning claw, as they're actually kind of good under the new edition, and it was a pretty easy bit. It was already an official bit on the kit itself, so I just had to clip off the lightning claw that I thought fit the pose the best and go with that. I did experiment though using a thunder hammer from the Dark Angels kit, and you can actually match the Terminator armed fist from the Dark Angels kit onto the Cataphractii left arms pretty easily if you did want to have a close combat weapon. For the last step in this conversion, I just took a small sausage of green stuff and pressed it into the gap that was left on the sensor array on the top of the Cataphractii's armor. Then, using a flat sculpting tool, I gently pressed this into a small rectangle to make it look like a added on piece of the Marine's armor as opposed to the sensor array sitting just on top and floating above it. And sure, while this is sculpting, it's a pretty easy process. It's not quite gap filling, but it is just kind of taking this long piece of green stuff, pressing it down, and making sure your edges are nice and squared away. I also added a couple of small cables using some jewelry wire to the back of the Narthicarium to connect it to the plates under the shoulder pad. This process is pretty fidgety and quite annoying, so I'm actually not going to go into it here, as I'd recommend in the future just leaving these off completely. No one will really notice, I don't think. But But yeah, that's really it. I know this is a pretty easy conversion that pretty much accounts as to just swap an arm for an Apothicarium, but I didn't see any of these on YouTube at all, and I was making one of these for my army anyway that I'm planning to do for the new edition, so I figured I'd throw a video up and hope you all can get something out of this and enjoy it. As always, thanks for watching, and hobby on.